Hello there, folks. I apologize yesterday, those of you who watched me for our long and constitutional break. We took a short break, short break, but we're back now. And I promise you it's going to be more exciting than ever today. And I could not have found a better guest for my program today. The program you saw yesterday, we're talking about what colonialism has done to us, how it has stripped us of our very identity. I use Stokely Carmichael's definition. He says colonialism has not only made us stupid, it has made us ignorant in our stupidity. And I thought that was quite harsh. But you watch, man. My guest today, let me go straight forward to it. My guest today is one of the most internationally acknowledged filmmakers in the world. He's won awards, name it. And he made a film. The title of the film was You Hide Me. And folks, check this out. He made this film a little over 50 years ago. 50 years later, the film has become a big hit. It's showing everywhere in the world. People are just rushing to go and see this documentary called You Hide Me. And what is it about? It's about the artwork, the amazing collection of artwork from Africa that our colonialists stole. And when you go to Britain and you go to the museums there, they have the biggest ever collection of our artifacts, of our history in their museums. We don't have them in Ghana. Now, before I introduce this man, he was able to get into this museum, which is a fort. And craftily, he'll tell us all about it, how he managed to enter the British Museum to film all these artifacts from Africa. And of course, the film is called You Hide Me, because they were hiding them. Kwate Owoo.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Yes, my brother.
Good to see you, my brother.
Me too. I'm so glad.
Wow.
So happy to be here.
And by the way, the first time we met, I was at NAFTI. Yes. You know where the pioneers at NAFTI is now called Uni something. Unimax. And at that time he was working with the Institute of
African Studies.
African Studies. Yes. So the second day to come to NAFTI to help us creating content and infusing African theories. Yes. And that's the first time I met him. Yes. 1979.
And I knew you when you were on stage.
Oh!
Doing your one-man show.
The one-man show.
Yeah. At the institute.
Yes, I performed there.
Yeah, but we didn't
meet there. But you saw the show.
Yeah.
I think it was called Mellow Madness then.
Yes.
Chale, well, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
And it's an honor for me, Kwate,
me too.
to host you on this show. Producer, director, writer of You Hide Me. And you did that show over 50 years ago, and suddenly
56 years ago.
56 years ago.
Yep. More than half a century.
And all of a sudden, it's the biggest thing happening now.
Tell me about it.
Before I even go any further, how does it feel doing a film over 56 years ago?
Yeah.
And today, as we speak in 2026, it's become a big hit and is one of the most requested films in the world.
Indeed.
How do you feel about it?
Surreal. I mean, as I mentioned to you, it's like surreal because from the word go, when I started, the concept, the idea of going to the British Museum itself was very speculative.
Yeah.
How do I feel? Let me respond. How do I feel about it? I feel really surreal and also very, very, extremely happy that, after a long, it's like a long journey, at the end of a long journey, when you sit down to say you are thirsty and you want to grab some water to drink it, then you say, wow. That was...
it's been 56 years.
Yeah, it's been 50.
So now help me to rewind now. Okay. And by the way, this man, you call me the youngest woman, man. This man is,
82.
82! You're still going so strong, you look so good. I'm going to find out later about what you eat and what you don't eat because I'm just so amazed by your strength.
Oh, okay.
But let's get back to the program.
Okay. Okay.
What was it that spurred you to do a film on African artifacts, hundreds and thousands of them that have been stolen by a former colonial, whoever they call them,
Yes.
and they're being kept in their museum? Where did that idea come from?
Motivation.
There? Yeah, I'm going to film these things.
Yes, yes. Well, you see, as I said, there's no smoke without fire.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always make reference to my father, my late father.
Mm.
Because my late father, when I was a toddler, 4 years old, he used to grab me and I used to sit on his shoulders.
At 4 years old?
Yeah, because he was the CPP chairman of the Nkrumah's party, for the Tudu area.
Wow.
So he was in charge of the Tudu area.
He went by the name st0len, or what was
he
the
was
name?
called John Owoo.
John st0len, okay.
John Owoo, my father. So he was in charge of the CPP for the Tudu area. And so he had, he used to take me to most of the rallies. Every rally that is happening, he used to organize a rally. He was also an organizer.
Okay.
So I used to sit on his shoulders.
So you organized a rally?
Yeah.
And when the rally was happening, he took you?
Kwame Nkrumah comes to speak at these rallies.
Oh.
Nkrumah was moving from one, sector to sector, And so that's why I saw Kwame Nkrumah for the first time.
Your father's shoulders.
Yes, and the people the masses were berserk. When Nkrumah came out there, everybody was screaming, yelling, freedom, freedom, freedom.
And at 4 years, what does that mean to you? You were just fascinated with this man?
Well, this was, you see, that's why I believe that we should not underestimate our toddlers. Because at the age of 4, I was sitting on his shoulders and I was fascinated by the crowd. But unknown to me, I was psychologically imbibing, subconsciously, I was imbibing
what you were seeing.
What I was seeing. I didn't understand what I was seeing. But everybody was, hey. And there was this one man at the end of the crowd, and everybody was going berserk about this guy. So that was, I think, the evolution of my political consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah, at the age of 4, I realized that.
You didn't even know it was having any effect. You were just 4 years old, just watching what was going on.
People were shouting for, colonial freedom, freedom from colonialism, down with colonialism, down with colonialism,
wow.
Down with colonialism, down with imperialism. I was just
watching.
Yeah, and soaking. Yeah, so that's, and then also, he was a movie fanatic. My father was a movie fanatic because about a few minutes from our house, there was a Globe Cinema.
Is that the Globe that is still around?
The same Globe Cinema that is still around.
Wow.
That old Globe Cinema, colonial cinema. Every weekend he used to grab me and my siblings, we used to go there. He was always, whether we liked it or not, we had to go to the...
Every weekend?
So every weekend I used to sit on his laps. And we go into the cinema and all kinds of films, musicals, thrillers and etc. So that's how I imbibe cinema. That's cinema.
So you took a liking to cinema?
Yeah, it was, something also subconsciously.
Wow. So interesting. So you were going to movies and it was having an impact on you from as early as 4, and then you go to
political rallies.
Political rallies.
Yes.
So both the movies and the rallies were sort of, you were imbibing them both.
Yes, and they were gelling in my system, somehow.
Wow.
Yeah. So from there to continue, of course, from that age I went to school. I went to primary school, and then from primary school I went to secondary school, Kwate in Fansipe. I'm proud to say that I'm an old
mover.
Yeah, mover. I'm an old mover, guy. So, but art and history were my best subjects when I was at the first school. And I took the prize in art every year at speech day.
Wow.
Every year at the speech day.
This was fine art, drawing, painting, or sculpturing, everything.
Everything, you know, art, learning art, you know, and then there was an art tutor called Mr. Tete, who really liked me because he found that, he discovered that I was so passionate about art, you know, and somebody. So from there, after my, you know, secondary school days, my parents sent me to London to continue my education. And when I went to London, I went to Alsewell Polytechnic in London, and I went to study art and fine art. So when I concluded with that, the next thing was, okay, so, you know, where do I go from here? Now, interestingly enough, one day I was riding in the subway, and I was going somewhere, and I missed my station. So I had to get out and walk back.
Oh, so you went to the stop that was following when you missed?
Yeah.
And then walked back?
I walked back because, you know, I didn't realize that I had, you know, I was in the train, and my station, we came to my station, but my mind was somewhere else. You know, I was always imaginations, you know, I was always searching for something. So when I walked back and I got out of the station, I walked on my way back to my original, you know, point where I was going to get down. I ran into this huge billboard, Kate Plant Television School for foreign students. I said, wow. I was like, hey, Kate Plant Television School. So television, again, you know, sparked my memory on
going to Globe when we were 4.
Yeah. So I went in there and I registered, and it was a short 6-month course. You know, they had all the software and the hardware. It's a small place, you know, and there was other foreign students from Zambia, from Morocco, and etc. And it's a short course on television production. So I completed that, but when I got out, I thought to myself, no, I think that, you know, something else is missing. This is just a little a taste of things to come. So a friend of mine who realized that I was, you know, not, you know, satisfied with the television thing, said, look, there's a film school in the Leicester Square area, Strand area, called the London Film School. You should go and check them out. So I went there, and indeed it was a huge complex, London Film School. So I was lucky. I made an application to Greater London Arts for a grant. And I was lucky. I got a grant to attend the London Film School. And when the first day I arrived in class, guess who was also, there were only 2 Africans in the class. You know, myself and Ernest Abekwe.
Oh, my teacher at NAFTI.
Ernest Abekwe, you know, he was much older than me, but he was in the class. So
oh, wow.
It was just lovely to, you know, run into another
Ghanaian.
You know, so we were in that class until we graduated. And then but during my school days, during my London Film School days, I was also a member of the Black Unity and Freedom Party.
So that's when the politics came in.
Yeah, that's when the politics came in. And the Black Unity and Freedom Party was an organization of black youth who were descendants of Caribbeans who were brought into England, you know, after the war, you know, and stuff like that. So they are children of descendants of, you know, people from the Caribbean, Jamaica, and etc., etc. So I became friendly with them, And I was very highly motivated because they were always dressed in black with shades. And the motto was Black Power.
Wow.
And they based their organization on the Black Panther Party in the US.
I'm sort of listening to you and thinking, 4 years old, you were on your father's shoulder watching Kuma Tuka, freedom.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself in London
As
years
a teenager,
later.
yes.
And you're
Yes.
now with a...
Yeah, and I joined the party because it was a party against racism, because the police were always harassing, black people and, stuff like that. And especially those of us who were members of that party, because of the way we dressed with a black beret. We only didn't carry guns like
Well, we were in
they
all
did
black.
in the US. But we were all in black,
With black shades.
with black shades, looking wicked.
Men in black.
Yeah. And so, that was another period. And it was during that period that I decided to take a walk to the British Museum. Because after the film school, when I graduated from film school, I realized that most of my mates were only interested in pop music and musical film. That was the Beatles and the Rolling
Era of
Stones
the
era.
Beatles, yeah.
And stuff like that.
But you were interested in arts work, as in...
Yeah, and history too. So
Okay.
the first thing that clicked to me, I said, okay, British Museum, yeah, I'm sure that's somewhere, I could, find something interesting. So I went there, and lo and behold, when I entered the museum, Charlie, the Africa section of the museum, I was overwhelmed. A huge edifice.
What were you expecting as you were entering it? We're just going to check what the museum is like, or...
Yeah, well, because of history, because I wanted to make a documentary about African history.
Okay.
I mean, history was, I was possessed all the time. History was like when I imagine a topic, I think of history.
So you entered the museum.
And I went to the Africa section. And when I got to the Africa section, I was overwhelmed by what I saw there. I mean, it was a huge complex. I mean, with glass, cupboards, and doors from the floor all the way to the ceiling, as far as the eye could see. So, and it was saturated with African artifacts, rare, amazing African artifacts from all over Africa. And if you see the intricate artworks, I mean, of our ancestors, I mean, oh man.
Wow.
And all these, I've never ever seen these before since I was born. Suddenly, they were all arranged from the ceiling all the way to the ground. And I was checking them out. I said, wow, now there is a story here.
So that the filmmaker about
kicked in. I said, no, I want to make a documentary. This will be my first film after graduating from film school. So I said, let me explore the possibility. So I went to make inquiries at the information office, and I was told that the curator of the museum was called William Fagg, and that if I want to do anything there,
you have to talk to him.
I had to go into. So I made an appointment to go and see William Fagg. Now, when I went home, I took a look at myself in the mirror, the Black Panther, the whole thing. I said,
your dark glasses,
yeah, I don't think I can go to this appointment
in this attire,
intimidating attire. Because people were intimidated when they see.
Oh yes,
so other Africans were in suits and and
nice
acting,
tie. Yeah.
Yes, acting normal, and we were acting, So I said, no, I have to change costumes immediately. So I went to the West End and rented a 3-piece suit.
You actually went to rent a suit?
I decided that to meet
this guy.
guy,
Mr. Fack.
William Fagg. I think it would have been foolish on my part to have
Go there like a Black Panther.
Black Panther. And so I want to make a documentary about stolen artifacts and stuff. No. So I quickly rented a 3-piece suit with the 3-piece has the waistcoat, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I also rented a watch. They used to have
There's always a watch dangling by
a chain.
Yes.
So where you put your finger.
You rented one of that too.
I rented the whole 9 yards. And then I bought a bowler hat. When I got home and I dressed up, and I looked at myself, and I said, yeah, I think I'm looking good. So I tried on the bowler hat, and I looked stupid. Very silly.
In the bowler hat.
In the bowler hat.
Everything else was fine.
It was fine.
Your suit, everything was fine.
The bowler hat, I said, no, man, that's what this one did. No. It won't work. So, on the day of the appointment, I went to his office, knocked on the door, and, normally when you have an appointment and you knock and enter, the person who invited you will just immediately say, okay, sit down here or there. But when he saw me, he leaned back in his chair and he was like, I think he thought to himself that this is an African
big shot
gentleman or a safe nigger.
Yeah, you're not one of those fiery niggas. You were safe.
Yeah, safe. So he said he got out of his desk and came warmly and shook my hands very warmly.
He came to meet you?
Yeah, warmly. Sit down. Young man, sit down. What can I do for you? Sit down.
Wow.
Relax. So I thought, okay, I think I've made the first move on the chessboard, And then he said, what can I do for you? I said, sir, I was very meek and humble.
Yeah.
I'm here to celebrate you. Celebrate me? I said, yes, sir. I'm here to honor you and celebrate you. Because if it hadn't been for you and guys like you, all these amazing collections that I saw in the museum downstairs, meticulously laid out, I don't think the Africans would have had the capacity to store them. I think it would have, they would have vanished into thin air.
Wow.
I mean, if you guys hadn't,
kept them like
this, I don't think, Africans
could have handled that.
No.
So in effect, you are actually commending him that he's done great work with all the things that they.
Yes, but you see, subliminally, it was a strategy.
Yes,
it's like throwing a bone to a dog. I had to throw something.
Yes.
Because
to make him happy.
Yeah, because what am I saying? And I am here to celebrate you, and I want to make a film about you and your work.
Wow.
Because they said, look, young man, I was in your country before, in Africa. I lived in Africa as the district colonial officer in Kaduna and in Zaria. So I know your country very well. Everybody in Africa is in the same country.
Yeah.
Not a continent,
Yeah.
So I know your country very well. Yes. That's a brilliant idea. Okay, you, look, come with me. What you saw in the exhibition room was only 2% of what we have in our collection.
Oh my God. All the stuff you saw that blew your mind.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Was just 2%.
2%. And then he beckoned to me and said, I should come, follow me. So I followed him through his office to a door at the back of his office. And when he opened the door, I thought we were going to walk into another office, but I saw this metal spiral staircase going round and round and round down. So I gingerly followed him step by step. And finally, about 50 feet. 50 foot.
So there was a basement.
We hit the basement finally after these long winding steps. And KSM, Charlie Kwegu. When I hit the basement, there was an aroma that overwhelmed me. An aroma of, the smell of wood, not rotten wood, but something ancient, some old, you could smell that the something, man. And in the basement, as far as that I could see, were plywood boxes and plastic bags on shelves.
Wow.
Hundreds of thousands of them, as far as the eye could see.
All containing artifacts.
And I mean, the aroma alone, I felt like as if our ancestors were saying, "Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. We've been waiting for you here for such a long time. I mean, we've been here, hidden and concealed. And now, hey, man.
Welcome.
Do something." So I told him that I would like to request a week to come down here with my production crew. He said, no. A week? No. That's out of order. I can only give you 1 day. Oh, I almost broke down in tears. 1 day. And you have to come in at 9 in the morning and finish at 5. 9 to 5 working day.
Yeah.
And so in the end, I decided, okay.
So the original request was to ask for 1 week.
For 1 week.
So you can film as much as you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Open the boxes and discover. So he said, no, 1 day. But he said it's going to cost you some money. Really? How much? He says it's 500 pounds. What? 1970, 500 pounds. He said, look, don't panic. You are the first, if I allow you here, you'll be the first camera ever.
To be allowed into the museum.
These are secret vaults. People know the exhibition on the first floor.
Wow.
But nobody knows
The basement.
these secret vaults, where the rare McCoy is, where the action is. And I'm giving you an opportunity because I love your people and I love your country.
And then above all, you are there to celebrate him.
Yes, I'm here to celebrate him too.
Wow.
So he said, so I said, okay, I accepted the amount. But I said, why do I have to pay so much money? He said, look, we are going to organize 15 security officers to monitor you and your crew and every move you make, and they will guide you through the museum, the basement, and etc. Because look, none of the British television network, major networks, are even aware of the existence of this secret vault.
Wow.
So
no one has gone there with any camera whatsoever.
No. So you are very lucky. So I left him, and then quickly I started to raise the money with friends and colleagues who were also excited about the idea that this is a discovery. And some white liberals too, British white liberals also chipped in because they were quite excited about it. So I got a job as a delivery driver in a bakery in Soho, the west end of London. And from 6 a.m. in the morning, it was well paid, 6 a.m. in the morning to 12 p.m. I would be driving, zigzagging through Soho, London, and dropping bread in restaurants here and there. And I mean,
so this is all part of your fundraising.
Yes,
to get that 500 pounds.
To get that 500 pounds, while other friends were chipping in and stuff like that. So finally, we were able to raise the money. I was able to raise the money. And I went in. Now, before I went in back to the museum, I realized that no, if I go there with a production team, the whole thing is going to be me. It's like a one-man show. Me doing that stuff. I said, no, I don't want this thing to be a one-man show. I want a witness. So there was a sister in London called Maggie Pra, then Ekua Pra. She was studying law. Professor Kwesi Pra's younger sister, studying law in London. So I called her, I said, Ekua, Charlie, guess what? I've just been given this green light
to go and film in the museum.
The looted and the stolen.
Yeah, the stolen.
Looted and stolen. She said, and can you come with me? I was like, she said, yeah, count me in. I'm ready. So she joined me. So when you see You Hide Me, there are two people walking into the basement of the museum. That's me and Ekua. Ekua was so excited. She joined me, and when we entered the basement, oh wow, Charlie, the rest is history. I mean, the boxes. When you open the boxes, the basement was so vast, and we only had a day. Remember, 9 to 5. So we had to select areas and locations, like a bit from South Africa, a bit from Nigeria, and then we tried to focus on Ghana, where the Ghanaian artifacts were. And it was really very exhausting, because sometimes we opened some boxes and we were so amazed at the artwork and the creativity of our ancestors. Some of the boxes contain gold artifacts, gold and all kinds of metals you can ever imagine. Our people were working in all kinds of doing metal work, and oh man.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, so how did they take all of that? They'll go to them and buy, or how did they find a way to take all of that out of
most
Africa?
of these things obviously were in shrines. They were being kept in shrines.
Yeah.
So the shrines were like our spiritual, reference points. That's where our people, before Christianity, we had shrines. We also believed in the supreme creator. It's not that we didn't believe that there was a creator of the universe. We also believed Chediampom. What was that? Atananyongo. Yeah, our people also believed that there was a creator, but not a white man with a long beard, sitting on a cloud of smoke, surrounded by, angels and, white angels and stuff like that. So we saw all these things, and I recorded as much as possible all the stuff that we could record.
That would have been tight, though. You're giving a day.
9 to 5, like you are working, a working day. Sometimes, we were so overwhelmed, we stopped shooting and just to touch and feel the artifacts.
Wow.
Just to feel the artifacts, because some of them were just unbelievable. The intricate, the artwork, what instruments did they use to carve? These things, I mean, it was just phenomenal. So, at the end of the day, we had to wrap up and leave the museum and went back. We shot it on cellular. In those days, video was not, video only was available to the TV stations. They only had video, cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
So we had to shoot on celluloid. So after that, we had to go and process
it.
The film. And then I was lucky that somebody introduced me to a British left-wing film collective, Cinema Action. They are called Cinema Action. And their leader was a German, and he was married to a British woman, and they had a group. And they were making films about the trade union movement in England, the struggle of the workers against capitalism. That was their mantra. They had a whole, it was very refreshing to meet a group of filmmakers who were anti-imperialists, who were against capitalism. So when I arrived there with my film and I told them what the subject matter was about, they said, come in, open the doors, well, let him come in. And they took me upstairs to their studio. And they had Steenbeck, remember?
The editing machines back then.
Steenbeck editing machines all over. And they said, look, young man, sit here. These machines are yours.
And edit.
Do what you have to do. If you need any help, give me a call and I'll tell you how to tweak this and tweak that. So cinema action.
So that's where you did your editing?
That's why I did my editing. Free. Because I couldn't do the editing anywhere. So I was able to put that stuff together, splice it. Those days you splice and etc. And then finally, went to the laboratory, got the negatives cut to precisely the rough cut. And then a married print was made finally, a married print. You hired me first, copy. I was so excited. So I said, wow, now I have a copy.
Quick question before you continue. So when you got all the footage, was it after then that you wrote the script, You Hide Me?
That's a very good question. The concept of You Hide Me, in fact, the script of You Hide Me was written whilst I was in the basement.
Oh, wow.
Because, I've been asked that question several times. And I said that as I was exploring, the commentary was unraveling.
Wow.
In my subconsciousness, first of all, these things are being hidden. So You Hide Me. That's how the title of the film came, on the basis of my practical experience and the journey through that thing, under pressure. So the commentary was all embedded in me. So when I came out and I did the rough cut, I just wrote the commentary down and it just flowed out of me. So married print finally was made. Now the thing was where to screen it. So I thought that maybe I needed to distribute it. I need to get a distribution because £500 was spent. I need to pay people back. Some people, I tried all the British distribution companies in London. They were not interested. Every time I took the film to them and they showed it.
They previewed it.
They previewed it. They said, this is anti-British. This is too political. We want films of natives dancing, music, African music, and natives dancing, wearing their grass skirts and stuff.
But not something as this that is exposing
this
the theft and the loot.
Yeah. Because of the commentary itself was talking about, thieves. So I gave up.
Yeah.
And then I went to the Africa Center. There was a British woman who was the director of the Africa Center. The Africa Center was in Covent Garden, and it was a huge complex where Africans all over Britain organized their cultural events, their National Day, Independence Day. That's where everybody goes to celebrate. So I went there and met the woman, introduced myself to her, and I told her, this is my sad story. I've made a film, it cost me so much money, and I can't show it anywhere. She said, hey, don't worry. This is why we call this place the Africa Center.
So she was ready to screen it.
She was enthusiastic. She said, listen, we are going to launch your film here, premiere your film here.
Oh, wow.
And then, and I'm going to invite, and she invited all the professors from Cambridge, Oxford, and all the major British universities. Professors in art and history, in African history. And then she invited all the students, the London African student community were all invited.
Wow.
So we had...
And that was a premiere. So
the premiere, We had the academic, folks, and then the students.
The students.
So we all converged on that day. The place was jam-packed. So I thought, before that event, I said, let me go and invite the British Museum authorities, at least for them to come and see. I paid for it. So let them come and see the results of what I paid for. So I went to William Fagg and invited him. He said, oh, yes, he will come. But on the day of the premiere, he sent 4 representatives.
Oh, he didn't come.
He didn't come. I think he smelled a rat. I don't know. 4 representatives came in, and when they saw the way the place was packed, there were a few whites amongst them, but mostly Africans. I said, look, I prepared a front row, 4 chairs. There's some chairs here. Please come and join me. They said, no. Back seat. Give us some backs. So they went and sat at the back. I sat in a corner and I watched them like a hawk. When the film hit the screen and the commentary started firing on all cylinders, they quickly got up and put on their overcoat and sneaked out of
They left? Wow.
They sneaked out. So I thought that's a good sign. At least the audience are still here and these guys have sneaked out. So at the end of the screening, I had a standing ovation. Everybody was up, clapping and saying that this.
I can imagine how shocked they all were, knowing the amount of artifacts from the continent that had been stolen.
Because at the end of the movie, the last sentence was, we the people of Africa demand that all these stolen and looted works of art that represents our history, our culture, our religion, should immediately and unconditionally be returned to Africa.
Oh my word.
So
that's how the movie ended.
Yeah, that's how the movie ended. People were fired. Everybody fired up. So people were saying, look, you should take this to Africa. You should take it. I told them that I can't show it. Here in England, they said, take it back home to Africa, Zambia. People were giving me names and addresses of
places you could show them.
Officials I can write to. So. Okay, so long story short, I decided that I'll take the film first to Ghana, of course, my country. So I jumped on a plane and arrived in Ghana, and my first point of call was Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. I always carried the film under my arm because it was a reel, And I went to see the managing director
of then Ghana Broadcasting.
Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. And when I met him, he gave me a warm welcome. But when I told him I described the nature of the product I had brought.
Oh, so you didn't even view it. You just had to tell him like basically what it was.
Who are you and what do you want?
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
Okay.
That kind of stuff. So I said, this is what I have done, and it's a very rare, thing. Then he became agitated, and even he looked at me with a very hostile. First when I first introduced myself, he warmly welcomed me. Then the whole thing turned.
When you spoke about the kind of film you had, everything changed.
Everything changed. He was very hostile. And he says, look here, young man. We have quality and proper, interesting films on our television. We have quality material like Tom Jones.
The singer?
And Bonanza, the American cowboy films. Yeah, we want, criteria, not this rubbish. You can't come with it. Listen, we have excellent relationship with the British ambassador here in this country. An excellent relationship with the British government. You can't come here with this trash, this crap. to come and disturb this relationship between us and the British government, coming here to attack the British institution under this roof. Not here.
You can just interject for a quick second, folks. Do you remember what I was saying about what the colonialism does to the mind? Here's a typical example.
Oh, yeah.
You are happy that you have done this pro-African film about how our stuff has been looted
And hidden.
And hidden. And you're going to your own country, Ghana, to show them,
Expose it.
let them see. Do you know what they have done to us? And they get angry.
He was really pissed off with me. What is interesting is that in those days, I think because of my Black Unity and Freedom Party political, experience, I was bold. No, I didn't take no for an answer. My attitude was like, excuse me, sir, with all due respect, Tom Jones is not a Ghanaian citizen.
Yeah.
And these American cowboys. So if they have space on our national television, I, a Ghanaian citizen, also deserve to have my work on television for the people of Ghana to decide, whether it's crap or whatever.
Yeah.
So I want to screen it. You can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, you have to see it. It says you can screen it somewhere else, and I'll send a representative to come and watch it, but not here, not in this.
Not on Ghana television.
No, not on Ghana, not in this building.
Yeah.
Because they have screening rooms.
And you give the argument we have such a nice relationship with the British.
Yes.
Let's not offend them.
Yeah, the British ambassador,
Colonialism.
especially the British ambassador in this country, you are bringing this crap to come and intimidate and turn them against us. You are coming to turn these people who, we worship them like monkeys see monkey do, and you are coming to turn them against us. No way. Take it somewhere else. So, lucky enough, somebody suggested the Freddie Ebert, the German Cultural Center, Freddie Ebert Foundation, that I should take the film there. So, true enough, when I went there, the Germans were very happy, when they saw the idea of the film and etc. They said, yeah, we'll showcase it for you. We'll invite your friends, invite people, whoever, and we'll screen it. So I did a plan. I invited members of GBC, the young filmmakers who were also anxious when they heard I was thrown out.
To come and see.
And then the Ghanaian, those who worked at the Ghana Film Industry Corporation, and then students and a few other people. So there were about 90 people. But the most important, I invited Teddy Konu. Then Teddy Konu was my younger brother's classmate in elementary school, but he was doing his national service at Graphic. He was doing his national service then at Graphic, and Cameron Dodu was then the editor of Graphic. So I went to Graphic to invite Graphic to come to the Fred Ebert Foundation, and I was introduced to Teddy Konu. So he was very happy to see me. So Teddy was there, and at the end of the screening, there was a massive applause.
Wow.
And the Germans themselves were shaking like this behind the scenes. And Teddy shook my hands. And the next day, because the preview took place about 1 p.m. In the afternoon. The next day, somebody called me and said, hey, you are in the Graphic. There's an editorial in the Graphic, a whole editorial in the Graphic about you hired me. What? And that everybody should see this film. Teddy Konu went back and did
the piece.
And Cameron Dodu
picked it up
and decided.
He was a progressive.
Yeah, he decided that no, this cannot be an article, editorial. He quoted from some of the commentary and etc. and so on and so forth. So when I got the news, I went and bought the newspaper. I went straight up to the Broadcasting Corporation to go and meet again the managing director.
The one you had met who
before
didn't want to do anything.
No.
You went again to meet him?
I went to his office. In those days, I was very bold, though.
You're still bold.
Yeah, very bold. I mean, I don't take, nonsense crowd. So I went to his office and I opened the page, the editorial page. I said, look at this. The National Daily.
Yeah.
There's an editorial about the film that you rejected in the National Daily. Yeah.
And what did he say?
Now look here, young man. You are a troublemaker.
That's what his reaction?
Yes, you are a troublemaker. And let me tell you, national security is monitoring your movements. Whilst you are here in Accra, national security is monitoring your movements. If I were you, I would jump on the next plane back to the UK. You understand?
That was his reaction.
Charlie, for the first time, I became frightened because national security, me a poor student, film student, after struggling to come and make this film.
Such a major film.
And I'm being monitored by national security. So I took his advice.
And you left?
I left. Lucky enough for me, when I arrived in London, somebody called me and said, hey, you are in West Africa magazine, oh. Apparently, Cameron Rodu's editorial was picked
up by West
Africa magazine, which was a very well-known magazine, all across Europe and etc. And so the West Africa editor, called me and I screened the film, and the editorial and the article was a big spread about what I've done, what I did, and how I was able to achieve that. And then suddenly the film went viral because West Africa magazine is read by, different countries, Europe, and etc.
It's a very prominent paper then.
Prominent magazine. Then I got a call through West Africa magazine from Nigeria, the first country to buy a copy of You Hide Me.
Actually bought a copy.
He actually bought a copy for £200. That was the first. After spending all that money, and the national director of the Museum of Nigeria, Dr. Ekbo Eyo, if I remember the name correctly, ordered a print and paid for the print and the air freight and everything. Boom. Nigeria was the first African country
to buy a copy.
To buy You Hide Me.
Wow. That's awesome.
I'm telling you.
That is awesome. But we were talking about this. Let me elevate it just a little bit, because we were discussing the colonial mind in general, and how isn't it interesting that the director or the head of GPC then totally refused, and then later on you're told that you're a troublemaker, and there's national security monitoring you.
My movement.
For what? Challenging the colonial powers.
You see, that is, quite remarkable. That tells you that, the people, colonialism really, not only manipulated our minds and our consciousness, but they actually replaced, the essence of who we were with
who they want us to be, an image of what they perceive us to be.
So I always tell people that when people use the word obroni, or in Ghana they say brofonyo, our ancestors were smarter than us, because obroni, wherever they have been, obroni is nipa opo abro. This is how our ancestors perceived them. When they encountered them, they say they came to trade, but they started grabbing our people. They changed their agenda and started grabbing up and enslaving our people. So our people called them Nipa Momu Abrofo, which has now been turned into Mibroni. It's now a sign of worship, Mibroni. And in Ghana is Abrofo Nyo. Mene Ablo. That is being turned into Brofonyo. In Brofonyo. Mibroni bao na Mibroni. So the deep-seated psychological thing is itself, in the language itself, that describes the oppressor. We see the oppressor as, white. Mibroni. Imbrofonyo. We have, Charlie, we have some deep-seated problems.
Yeah. Now, let's come back to the current to wrap up. We have the president making sure that the UN finally accepts that the slave trade was a grave injustice to humanity.
Ghana will move a motion to declare the transatlantic slave trade the gravest crime against humanity.
This is what You Hide Me has been talking about.
Tell me about it. You see, I was so elated. I mean, I was like, I didn't sleep all night when I saw him addressing the UN, and especially when his representative opened the introduction to the president by using ago.
Yeah.
Ago. In You Hide Me, there's ago in You Hide Me.
Yes.
Yes. And I believe that the president has seen You Hide Me, for my information. And the point, I think the president has taken a major step in the history of Africa. I mean, it's definitely, Nkrumah will be...
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, finally, because to talk about slave trade and to talk about slavery as the greatest crime against
humanity.
And I thought that, wow, this is... Because I'm working on a documentary, titled The African Holocaust Reloaded. I've been shooting this material for more than 10 years. I started shooting in the U.S. The issue of slavery and slave mentality has been one of my, biggest, issues. So
African Holocaust
reloaded. Yes, I'm reloading the whole goddamn thing.
You're the man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've shot so much material. Now I need support and funding to finish it, because I've done interviews all the way from the down south, from Alabama, all the way to D.C., Philadelphia, New York, and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
I've been engaging people to debate and to and to discuss the effects, how it has affected. I remember one day I was walking on in one of the major streets in New York, and I turned the corner and I saw this decrepit old black man sitting in the corner, wretched looking, and that, man, there's something, the slave thing, the history of the slave trade, because what is this my brother doing here in this corner of this huge, metropolitan, this, I almost cried, I almost cried. I said that this is what the slave trade has done to us. And here he is sitting, begging for something to eat. So, African Holocaust, I'm going to reload. I'm reloading it.
Wow.
I'm reloading it. I need support. I need...
So you have your film, you have all the
shot,
footage?
Yes, I have the footage. I have the footage. I've shot some, huge footage, incredible footage.
Is it celluloid or now you're doing video?
No, I'm doing it in video.
Yeah.
I've shot some incredible material, incredible interviews. Amazing, thought-provoking interviews. And now AI can produce images, and stuff like that, So I'm just waiting for, Lucky enough, I have an editor, a great editor. You know him too, he's Nilante.
Oh.
Nilante Banaman. Alex.
He's awesome.
Alex is awesome.
And
Alex,
he's a cartoonist, artist, everything. He's the editor.
Alex is my editor, and we have gelled together.
Yeah.
So Alex is the editor.
Wow.
And he's the one who really understands.
He understands. He's deep. He's a thinker.
He's a very deep.
Yeah.
So we are waiting for some support and some funding, to enable us to galvanize the thing, forward, because I have shot over more than 80 hours of material footage.
Wow.
From the U.S. down to, wherever.
Wow.
So, Charlie,
The struggle continues.
I'm
You
telling
ain't
you.
giving up, man. You are. Wow. Ojeshon.
That's right. So
Show some love, man. This is st0len. Back in the day, Nafti. Just recently, I remember that you're not even a tutor there. I thought you were one of my tutors until I remembered you had been seconded there.
Yeah, I was seconded. There were 3: the Ministry of Information, Institute of African Studies, and then GBC or some other organization.
Yeah.
Professor Ketia called me one day and said, look, there's a new institution, a film school, and they need some African orientation.
Yeah.
So we want you to go there. I was then the research fellow at the Institute of African Studies at Legon. So I went there, to help to
Africanize the content.
Yes,
what we need to think
the
about.
curriculum, to help to
Yes.
develop the curriculum and Africanize the curriculum.
I remember.
Yeah. So.
And years later, he's the guest on my show. Neo.
My brother.
So good to have you here.
Oh, I'm so happy.
And I'm inspired by your energy,
Oh,
creativity, and we will take this thing to the next level. This Holocaust Reloaded.
My brother, we have to tell that story because what the president did at the UN, he lit the fuse.
Yes.
Now we have to,
Yes.
show the keg or gunpowder at the end of the fuse. So that's what African Holocaust reloaded. It's reloaded.
Before we end here, let me say this. You Hide Me is on YouTube. You can get You Hide Me anywhere. I want you to take a look at this and watch against the show I did on how colonialism is messing us up. But before we leave, your son is also doing.
My eldest son.
Okay.
Is doing a yeoman's work. I mean, he lives in the U.S. and he's a web designer. He's a multimedia, expert, and he has designed a website for You Hide Me. And on that website, you can go and stream You Hide Me. So there are so many requests coming from Europe, everywhere, and he has a link where you can download You Hide Me. Kwate Owoo. His name is
Kwate Owoo.
Yes, and I really want to pay tribute to you, Kweku, because at least like father, like son. I mean,
Amen.
he's carrying the torch.
Yes, from your father to you, and then to your son.
He's carrying the torch of my work. So, Kweku, thank you very much. I'm really grateful for you to do that. And he's got even armor also on the thing. So, hey, Kweku.
One more time for Neo, man. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Honored to have been able to host you.
I feel honored myself to be here. Because KSM, my brother, you are number 1. Numero 1.
So until next week when we come back your way with another edition of Unfiltered, this has been me with my greatest guest of all time, Neo, and we'll catch you all next week.